Welcome to Energy Stew. This is Peter Roth, your host. And I'd like to ask you, how's your good old microbiome doing these days? Isn't that our best friend? Don't we love it? I hope we love it because we want it to love back. So to help us understand how to live with a happier microbiome, is a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, who we go back actually decades, and and he's he developed something that is so important, and I've had him on the show before, and I really am so glad that we could talk about this because it's helping so many people. So, Dr. Howard Robbins, welcome back to Energy Stew.
And I thank you for being here and welcoming me back. But I object to the old. I'd rather say we've known each other for a very, very long time. Old isn't what I want to be thought of
Well, you don't look it anyway. So that's the good part. And
Yes, it is.
yeah.
Yes, it is.
And how's your microbiome doing?
Actually, very, very well. And and I guess that's why we should get right to it, because I your show is even shorter than mine. It's always like, "Hello, this is Dr. Robbins. Thank you for listening. Goodbye." So we can get right to things. And let me say that everybody listening to this show has probably had an antibiotic, an oral, if not intravenous antibiotic, at least once in their lifetime. Or they eat red meat or chicken that isn't organic or farm raised fish. And if you've done that, I don't care where you got it from, you've probably had a dose of antibiotics without knowing it, even if you burn the meat. Bad news is antibiotics kill not only bad bacteria, but all the good biome, all the good probiotics, as they're called, in your gut. And the ones you're most concerned about are in the wall of your gut. So, because of that, people don't realize it. They're walking around with an unhealthy gut all the time. This allows yeast, candida, to overgrow. So their immune system is always battling this yeast overgrowth. And thus they don't realize they're more susceptible to viral infections and other medical problems.
Well, you're saying that antibiotics, wherever they come from, will lodge in the linings of the intestines for a long time.
Well, they go throughout the whole body, and ultimately they can be used up. They can be used up, but because they go throughout the body, they do their damage. While they're supposed to be doing the good work, they also do their damage. And even if you've only taken them once, it doesn't take more than that to destroy all the healthy biome in your gut. And the problem that we're faced with is getting healthy biome back into the gut is not an easy matter, as easy as people would think. Um, capsule and many people, probably listeners to your shows, because they're generally people who listen to you are more advanced in their health thinking, are taking probiotics that are in a capsule, powder, or tablet form. And what was very interesting, hopefully I don't sound rushed on this, but what was very interesting was two professors, Dr. Eliav and Dr. Segal, from the Weizmann Institute in Israel, who specialize in probiotic research, did a very interesting and amazing study that they published, showing what happens when we take capsule, powders, and tablets, particularly capsules of probiotics, because that's the most common form they're in. And what they did was they followed it through your whole body. They had a large number of volunteers using the typical products that you could easily buy. They did what's called an endoscopy. They put a tube down and watched what happened after you swallowed it in your stomach. Then they technically followed it through. They did an endoscopy, which is putting a tube in rectally and looking at what's going on in your colon. And then they measured the amount of bacteria and and examined the feces that came out. What they found was everything that went in came out. Now, first of all, capsule powders and tablets are in suspended animation, technically speaking. These were once living bacterias that they freeze dried, put to sleep, and either kept the powder loose or put the powder into a capsule or compressed the powder with other things into a tablet, mostly powders and capsules for probiotics. So what they found was that 90+% of these bacteria were destroyed in the stomach by the stomach acids, and when they reach the small intestine by the bile salts that are there to digest things. And very few of them came out of suspended animation and became active and alive again. What Aliyov and Siegel found was, examining the feces, that many of these capsules and sometimes even tablets weren't even broken down. They were either partially opened or completely unopened. They were never digested, so to speak, to allow what was inside to even come out. But what they measured in the feces was literally, and I'm always kind when I say 90%, they said more, but at least 90% of what you took orally was in the feces, completely destroyed or never came back to life. So what you were taking was literally, as they put it, going in one hole and going out the other. And it was asked, so why do some people at least, feel better taking probiotics? Big answer was placebo. So you expect to feel better, so you do. But the other side of that same answer is maybe some of them did come back to life and some of them did do some good work. Well, I do, as you or listeners don't know, but they can find out, a particular therapy called intravenous ozone therapy for the last 33 and a half of my 50 years as a doctor. And that's what I specialize in. And the good news about intravenous ozone therapy is it can destroy every virus, fungus, yeast, mold, bacteria, parasite, toxin, and harmful free radical in the body. At the same time, it also destroys all good bacteria too, just not instantly like antibiotics do. So I had to find probiotics to put back that would work into my patients. And that's what led me over many years to try to find what would work. What we found was living probiotics, that bacterias that were alive to begin with, not in suspended animation, was the right way to go. Now, there's only a few things that had living probiotics in it. Fermented foods, for example, like sauerkraut. Kefir, unfortunately, comes from dairy. Kombucha, unfortunately, also fermented and comes with alcohol and sugar. And my patients can't do any of those things. So it led me to a product that ultimately turned out to be effective, but a mom and pop operation that made it in a very unsafe, possibly unsafe way. I don't want to mention any names, get anybody upset. So what led to that was what's called Doctor's Biome. So Doctor's Biome was basically, and you have to realize, even Hippocrates said it, all illness comes from the gut. You have to have a healthy gut because the gut communicates with every organ and every system in your body. Just in the last decade, there's been over 15,000 published papers just in our National Library of Medicine, PubMed.gov alone. Okay, around the world, other publications that other than PubMed, which limits what they'll put in, I would say probably double that. That's how many studies have been done, research has been done on the importance of probiotics, what works, what doesn't, and why. And obviously, the capsule, powders, and tablets may have some small benefit, but it's the living probiotics that have been proven in these studies to work the best. Then we found Well, so much is destroyed in the stomach that you have to take it in the mega billions of what's called CFUs, colony forming units. And that's fine because you can put a very small amount of bacteria, I should say, a very small capsule can hold billions upon billions of these probiotic bacteria. But they have to survive the stomach. So research developed over the last so many years, 9 years, 10 years, something called next generation bacteria. These are bacteria that are created to survive the stomach over 90%. That's very important because the stomach acids we've already shown from Dr. Segal and Eliav are going to be destroying them. They're living now. So now I have living bacteria created to survive the stomach. Well, there are two basic types of bacteria. There are the kinds that look like your index finger called rods. They're sticks. And then there's kinds that sort of have like hands and feet. They're actually yeast-like. And these can grab onto things. The rods, like acidophilus, something everybody knows from yogurt and kefir, rods are basically able to aid digestion, but they float in, aid digestion, and then come out. So you need the bifidobacterias that can stick to the wall of the gut. Well, they all can't easily do that. So they worked on that and came up with what is actually called smart probiotics. They didn't go to Harvard and Yale and get a degree. They're actually created so when they get to the wall of your gut, they can stick to the wall and change. They actually become part of the cells in your wall. They change their genetic expression, as it's called, to become part of you.
But what
And
you're saying is interesting, that each different probiotic, as part of the soup that you make, each one then serves a different purpose. Is that right?
Exactly. Now, we have supposedly over 300 different strains of bacteria in our gut, hopefully healthy strains, and I just pointed out likely not. Small interesting fact, babies are born without any microbiome whatsoever. But when I say that without any, as they exit the birth canal, they get some from their mother.
If they go through the birth.
If they get a C-section, which is a high percentage today, they get zero. So where do they get their probiotics from? The next best way, mother's milk, if the mother breastfeeds. But that automatically says, does the mother have a healthy gut biome? Because if she doesn't, what is the baby going to get from the mother's milk?
Right. Wow.
So babies don't, and that's why kids get sick all the time. You don't realize it. They have yeast overgrowing in their gut, and this weakens the part of the immune system, the T cell system that fights viruses. And that's why kids get colds and stuff all the time. Whereas if they had a healthy gut, they would be fighting it better because their immune system would be stronger. Actually, it's estimated that up to 90% of your immune system comes from your gut. It's absolutely amazing, all the different things that the gut relates to. So you need next generation smart probiotics that are living so they can survive the stomach and the transit time getting to the gut. Actually, one company came up with a very bright idea. They called it, if you get spores, because that's how bacteria produce, they create spores. That's their offspring. So if you put spores into a capsule of the kind that can work, they might survive the stomach and then come back to life, okay, and populate the wall. The problem with spores is the transit time. Once you swallow it, it takes hours to come from your stomach and reach your gut, many hours. And unfortunately, there isn't enough transit time for the spores like planting seeds in the ground. First, you have to, they have to grow into little seedlings and then eventually into a plant. The spores don't have enough time to grow into strong enough, healthy adults to populate the wall. But it was a great idea. It was a great idea. So you need healthy living bacteria. Now, that's the next thing. How do you keep them healthy and living? They need what's called prebiotics, and people have been hearing that now too. I mean, you can't go into a store today without buying probiotics and prebiotics in toothpaste and shampoo and seltzer water and just about everything you can imagine. They're throwing this stuff in because people are learning this is important. They just don't realize that it may be a complete waste and a way to charge more money for something that's giving them very little value. But putting that
So wait a
aside,
second.
yes,
We just said that probiotics and prebiotics are of value. So why would it be that if it is in these different products, why wouldn't that be a solution?
because they're not actually alive and they're not going to come back to life, but they put them in that way, and you're buying virtually dead biome.
Okay.
Uh, I can't say completely dead, but near worthless. But it's a marketing feature. It's a way to sell and charge much more for something than you normally would be able to get. A can of flavored seltzer water today may cost 70, 80 cents or $1. They can sell a can of flavored seltzer water for several dollars with microbiome in it. Okay.
The dead microbiome.
Dead microbiome in it. So, in any case, so prebiotics are actually the food that the probiotics bacteria eat. And basically, it could be made up of several things. It could be either dairy, unless you're dairy sensitive. It could be made up of sugar, which is, as we both know, very unhealthy. Okay. Or it could be the fiber. It could be fiber and maybe naturally occurring sugars from vegetables and fruit. And that's why, if you look up what are prebiotics, it's basically telling you to eat vegetables and fruit, because the fiber in it helps promote probiotics, healthy bacteria in your gut to grow and to live.
And can it be cooked or raw?
Basically, you need raw. Once you're cooking it, you're breaking it down, lightly steamed at best. That's okay too. Otherwise, you're destroying the value of the food.
Right.
Okay. So now you need prebiotics to feed the bacteria so they can grow into stay healthy adults and make babies that can grow into healthy adults. You need to feed your babies. So prebiotics are very important. And what's interesting, and a small aside, is if you have healthy bacteria, probiotic that are living strong in the wall of your gut, you'll have a healthy gut. And that's going to do several things. One, you'll be able to absorb the nutrients from your food better. Okay. So you'll have a healthier body. But really important is it creates postbiotics in your gut that your body can absorb. Basically, vitamins, lots of B vitamins and things like that.
Well, wait a second. I'm lost here. How do you get to those vitamins?
It's actually the waste product from the probiotics. Healthy bacteria create healthy things. Wow. So you're actually absorbing the healthy things that the probiotics are giving us from their metabolism.
That's wonderful.
I know.
I didn't know anything
this whole thing is a wonderful thing. And what people don't understand is, if we go back probably hundreds of years ago, the soil probably contained a lot of this biome. That's where we got it from. So when we ate fruits and vegetables from the ground that was healthy and unprocessed and didn't get sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, we were absorbing all sorts of micronutrients. We were absorbing probiotics. We were absorbing mineral salts, which our soil is completely depleted from. That's why we need to take salt supplements like sea salt, which has all the trace minerals that our body lacks and needs so importantly. So that was already in the food that they were eating. Today, we have destroyed our environment. The even organic farming doesn't put enough of these micronutrients back in, certainly not the probiotics that we need. And that's why taking supplements become necessary. And another important thing with that in mind is that people say, well, if I already take some good stuff and I already have it growing in my gut, why do I need more? Isn't if I just keep eating the right foods, won't they just keep growing in number? The answer is yes and no. The answer is yes and no. The reason the answer is yes is because, yes, you're feeding them and they will grow better that way. So eating a diet rich in organic vegetables and some fruit is wonderful. But the problem is everything we eat and everything we drink is loaded with everything that we don't want in our body. It could be loaded with bacteria. I mean, it's a dirty world and you can't sterilize your food. So we're taking in and ingesting in what liquids we drink, okay, and in what foods we eat, bad bacterias that the good bacteria will go into competition with, and through what's called competitive exclusion, that's actually a medical term, kill off the bad boys. They act like kamikazes and they kill off all the bad boys.
Right,
they sacrifice their life.
Right. And so wouldn't that be the opportunity to have ingest bad things so that the good bacteria get used to them and are wiser and more productive in keeping us healthy?
Well, the answer is yes, to a degree. The problem is we're always going to keep ingesting them. So our good biome is always constantly having to fight and kill them off and sacrifice their lives. That's why taking probiotics daily is necessary. And again, go back hundreds of years, our ancestors were eating it in the food every day that they were eating. So there was that battle was going on, and that's why they maintained natural health.
So
It's gotten
now,
I was going to say it's gotten so bad, and doctors, particularly gastroenterologists, GI doctors as they call them, have learned that most probiotics on the market don't work. So they've gone, well, we got to put good biome in. Where are we going to get it? How are we going to get it in? And they came up with FMTs, fecal matter transplants.
oh,
Basically, they take feces from a healthy adult and they put it inside you. They transplant it inside you. There's only, and it's not a bad thought.
But that's if you really need, if you're in such bad shape that you really have to go to that level.
That's right. People that are in very bad shape do that kind of thing. Well, it's very expensive. It costs thousands upon thousands of dollars. A few people have died from allergic reactions to the transplants because you're putting somebody else's stuff in your body and you may not have the ability to deal with it and adapt to it.
Rather than having to get that far, we're near the end of the show. So we want to talk about what you are offering in Doctor's Biome, because I was watching you over the years do your research and develop this, and how satisfied you are with what you eventually were able to perfect, and now you're offering it, and this is something that is saving lives because it's creating healthy microbiomes.
Yeah, well, what happened was, again, I needed this for my patients. So I found a company that had a good product, but not a great one. I bought into the company. So full disclosure, doctors have to give full disclosure. I'm a part owner of the company now because I had to get them to change and make what we needed. And when you give them enough money, they were willing and open-minded enough then to do just that. So they start with a 100% organic juice made of mint, kale, lettuce, cucumber, celery, apple, and lemon juice in that order. with virtually no sugar, no fermentation, no alcohol, virtually nothing you don't want in it. They added 15, and it took 3 food scientists to come up with this, 15 patented strains. These are strains of probiotics that are next generation and smart probiotics created to survive the stomach and stick to the wall of the gut. And the fiber that these bacteria are eating are part of the vegetable juice itself. So they take the vegetable juice, and instead of having to shake the bottle, because, like an orange juice, how the pulp settles to the bottom and it gets layered that way, this has been so finely sieved that the fiber and everything is floating in it. You can't see it. So it's delicious. Even children love it. Babies love it. And you can take it, and you take 1 2-ounce shot every day. So it's a living liquid probiotic. You have to drink it living. It's the only way. I have to say, it's not an inexpensive product to make. It actually has to be made in a clean room to make sure that nothing else gets in
Well,
it.
it's for people who are really serious about their microbiome and are willing to invest in it, and understand that this is how important this is for their lives. So,
Now, I will say this. We did give you, I know you use it, and because you're a healthcare practitioner, you got a special coupon code that you were able to use to get all your people a discount. I
right.
don't, if you want to share that now or whatever way you want to share it, you're more than welcome to do that because it's a nice discount that they all get.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember it because um, but what I'll do is I'll put it into the post, into the email for this show, and people can use it.
Yeah, it's always nice that we're New Yorkers. It's always nice to get a discount.
Right,
New Yorkers don't like to pay full price for anything.
right. So we're really at the end here, and I'm so excited that people now can understand the nature of probiotics and how to do it right versus most people are doing it wrong.
Can I give my office number for people to call?
Of course.
Okay, so if you have any questions about this, or for that matter, what we didn't talk about today, ozone therapy, you're welcome to call me in my Manhattan office at 212-581-0101. That's 212-581-0101.
Right. And your website is doctorsbiome.com.
Doctor's Biome, DOCTORSBIOME. Sounds like biome, but it's pronounced biome. Doctorsbiome.com.
Great. Dr. Howard Robbins, it's so wonderful to do this show with you. And I'm glad you're here.
It's a blessing, and thank you for having me on, Peter.
Sure. And this is Peter Roth, your host of Energy Stew at prn.live. I can be reached at Peter at Heartriver, HEART river.org. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks so much for listening.